Imagine your money as a control panel, with a throttle, a brake, and a small dial labeled "Where You Live." Most people keep cranking the throttle, work longer hours, chase promotions, collect new skills. But they forget that the "Where You Live" dial can quietly drag the whole system down, no matter how much you earn. I'm Miles, and today I want to hand you a simple map, a way to understand money and everyday economics more clearly. Get richer over time, and avoid traps that feel normal because everyone around you accepts them. I'm not promising quick riches. I'm promising you'll finally see what's draining your future right in front of you. Here's the rule people avoid saying out loud. When the price of living somewhere crosses a certain line, compounding starts to suffocate, not because you're lazy, but because you're locked inside an expensive room. Let me tell you about David. David is a software developer in Seattle, earning around $128,000 a year, experienced enough to feel stable, with a career path that looks bright. On paper, he's a clean success story, but his one-bedroom apartment eats nearly $3,000 a month. The walls are thin, the laundry is shared in the basement, and every morning the garbage truck still serves as his alarm clock. David's take-home pay sounds impressive until rent carves off a huge piece on day one of the month. The worst feeling is this: he hasn't even lived yet, and the money is already gone. David tries to cut back, but expensive cities have a kind of hypnosis. Everything gets labeled necessary. And even a casual coffee can feel like a ticket you pay just to avoid falling behind. This is entertainment, not financial advice, but the trap itself is very real. At the end of every month, David stares at his bank balance like he's staring at a jar with a crack running down the side. He isn't reckless, he's simply paying to exist at that exact set of coordinates. Some months he saves only a few $100s, sometimes less, and what scares him is that he's doing everything people recommend, yet his future still feels paper thin. While David keeps asking what he's missing, an old friend texts him. Her name is Maya. She used to live near him early in her career, and she once believed you had to cling to a big city to have a chance. But after getting used to remote work, Maya moved to Columbus, earns around $92,000 a year, noticeably less than David, and her place is bigger, quieter, with rent closer to $1,500. The strange part is, Maya doesn't talk about earning more, she talks about keeping more. Every month, she sets aside nearly $1,700, steady as a clock, and that money starts growing, because time finally has room to do its job. David, with the higher salary, feels like he's running on a treadmill, sweating for real, but staying in the same spot. I call this the location tax. It doesn't show up on a bill. Nobody signs their name to it, but it comes straight out of your future. And it gets uglier when it collides with a Gen Z habit, dopamine spending, small purchases meant to numb stress because life around you is too expensive and too fast. In the next part, I'll show you how to measure this location tax with one simple number and why changing where you stand can change your whole trajectory. Here's the single number that exposes how hard the location tax is biting you. It isn't your income, and it isn't your rent. It's what's left after you finish living through a month. Call it your free money, the money that's allowed to become your future instead of becoming another receipt. David runs a brutally simple calculation. Monthly take-home pay, minus rent, minus food, transportation, the unavoidable basics, plus a little spending so he doesn't feel like he's suffocating. The result is so small he hates looking at it, because it feels like 6 years of effort being squeezed through a door crack. Maya runs the same calculation, with only one difference. She changed her coordinates. Her take-home pay is lower, but what's left after living is thicker, more predictable, and most importantly, repeatable. You don't build wealth from rare breakthroughs. You build it from something that repeats, like a heartbeat. This is where people get it wrong. They think a high salary means you're winning, but the real question is whether your salary survives the city. A dollar in one place isn't the same as a dollar in another, because a dollar can be a seed, or it can be parking money. Now look at compounding in the coldest way possible. Compounding doesn't love you, it only loves consistency, and it hates the months when you have nothing left to plant. When your free money is too thin, you may call it saving, but in reality, it's just trying to breathe underwater. Suppose David can set aside $300 a month, while Maya sets aside $1,700 a month. They're equally disciplined, they choose the same simple, boring approach, and they both let time do the rest. After 20 years, the gap is no longer a few thousand. It becomes a canyon. because each month Maya plants a field, while David plants a tiny pot on a windowsill. The terrifying part is, they aren't different in willpower. David isn't less hardworking, less smart, less ambitious. He's simply paying a fee to stand in the right place, and that fee is eating the speed of his future. If you've ever blamed yourself for not getting ahead, pause for a second. The problem might not be you, it might be the ground you're standing on, and that ground is tilting a little more every month. In the next part, you'll see why the most expensive cities always feel the most necessary, and how to tell when you're staying for strategy and when you're staying for inertia. Expensive cities sell you a feeling that if you leave, you'll fall behind. It's like a stage flooded with light. Everyone believes opportunity is waiting behind the curtain if they just stay a little longer. Every crowded cafe becomes a reminder that any conversation could be a key. And if you live inside those reminders long enough, you start confusing real value with the price of admission. David used to believe that too. He believed staying was an investment because the city had big companies, events, communities, a pulse that made him feel like he was moving forward. Then he noticed something colder. Many meetings are just meetings. Many connections are just polite noise. And many expenses are simply the cost of looking like you're okay. There's another trap even more subtle, the identity trap. You don't just pay rent, you pay for the right to say you belong there. You match the look, match the pace, chase small hits of consumption to reward yourself, and call it living. If a place truly makes you happy, nobody has the right to mock that choice. The problem is, many people have never priced it. They don't know what they pay each year to hold on to the feeling of being at the center, and they don't know whether that feeling is worth it or just inertia wearing a nice suit. What makes the location tax feel especially absurd is that the link between your job and your geography is loosening. Work that once demanded a fixed desk now often only needs a screen, a meeting calendar, and clear results. When distance stops being a wall, where you live starts looking like a choice, not a fate. David once believed his company would never allow remote work. Then he watched coworkers slide into flexible schedules. A few days in the office, the rest at home. Some even moved away entirely, and the work still ran, because what the company buys isn't their coordinates, it's their capability. Maya has a simple habit. Before she believes she's trapped, she checks reality. She asks whether the job truly needs her body there, or whether it only needs fast responses and good output. She proposes an arrangement with clear days, clear deliverables, clear responsibility, because the worst they can say is no, and the best is you win back your right to choose. And here's the point that matters. Spending 2 years in an expensive city to learn fast, build a network, and accelerate early can be an investment. Staying for 15 years simply because change feels heavy is a long payment plan for a life that never grows up. The fastest test to tell strategy from fear is to stare at the cost of 1 year. If David saves $300 a month and Maya saves $1,700, the difference is $1,400 a month, which is $16,800 a year. That isn't a paper number, that's extra years of work, and extra years' freedom gets pushed away. Now ask the more uncomfortable question. If a place is taking $16,800 a year from you, what are you getting back that's concrete enough to touch? Are your skills actually growing faster? Or are you just buying the feeling of being in the right place? Does your network convert into real opportunities? Or is it just handshakes that dissolve after the night ends? If you can't name what you're receiving, you're probably paying for a story, not a plan. And when you're paying for a story, you can stay trapped for years without noticing, because stories are comfortable. Staying close to family has value. Keeping real friends has value. Living somewhere that genuinely makes you happy has value. The problem is, many people never separate value from cost. They feel something familiar and assume it must be right. When you never price your choices, you pay with your future, month by month, quietly and deeply, until you look up and it's late. David might not want to leave because his friends are there, because starting over scares him. But there's a third option, not staying forever, not disappearing forever, simply reducing the location tax by shifting your position. Move slightly outward, or choose a city that's cheaper but still alive. And your free money can change immediately without burning your social life to the ground. And if you can work remotely, there's another door, living where costs are far lower than income, not as an escape fantasy, but as a rational trade. Moving won't erase loneliness. It only changes its shape. The loneliness of being trapped in an expensive city is the loneliness of exhaustion. The loneliness of starting over is the loneliness of roots not yet grown. And that second kind can be solved with time and intention, while the first kind usually grows with every bill. If you want to see the location tax with maximum clarity, run a 10-year projection. Nothing complicated. You only need two numbers: your free money each month right now, and your free money if you lived somewhere cheaper or at least less expensive. That gap is the distance between two versions of your life. One that rises slowly but surely, and one that treads water inside noise. David writes out two scenarios. In the first, he stays, saves a few hundred a month, and sometimes a small emergency wipes it out. In the second, he reduces the location tax, so his free money increases by $1,000 a month. Just $1,000, no miracle required, and suddenly the future starts moving. Because time doesn't wait for you to feel stable before it begins. Compounding doesn't wait for you to be less stressed before it grows. It only works when you keep planting, month after month, even in bad seasons. So, when the location tax leaves you with nothing to plant, it doesn't just take your money, it takes your chance to let time fight on your side. And one final question closes the 10-year projection. When you meet yourself 10 years from now, do you want that person to thank you for changing your coordinates, or blame you for calling inertia stability? There's a truth that's cold but fair. Where you live isn't destiny. It's a variable. The moment you treat it like a variable, you take the wheel back. You stop living like someone being dragged and start living like someone steering. You don't have to leave immediately. You only have to calculate the real price of staying, then decide with open eyes. If you want one simple action after this video, grab a sheet of paper and write down your free money from your most recent month, then set a target to raise it, even by $500. When you turn it into a number and a plan, it stops being a foggy anxiety and becomes a solvable project. That's how you start building a future that doesn't depend on hope. And now I want to ask you for something clear and specific, because this is a brand new channel. Please subscribe so you don't miss the next videos, and because every subscription helps the algorithm push this kind of practical, simple money thinking to more people who need it. If you can, hit like to tell the platform this topic matters, and leave a comment. Do you live in an expensive city or a cheaper one? And roughly how much free money do you have each month? So the next episodes can be built around real life, not theory. If you want to go deeper, write one sentence about your situation, your income range, your city, and what's squeezing you the hardest. I read them, I pick the most common patterns, and I turn them into clean maps you can actually use without jargon. See you in the next one.